Namo Phat. Thank you so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls us back to our true home. The third mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I vow to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I'm determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness of myself and others, I'm determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. For our Dharma lesson, we've been reading More Than Mindfulness, Widening the Field of Practice by the Monastics of the Thai Forest Sangha. Today we're completing a Dharma talk by Ajahn Viradhamma called Mindfulness, Vitality, and Inquiry. When there is joy, beauty, stillness, be grateful for that. Really use that and say, okay, now the heart is balanced. This is what it feels like to be balanced, to be at ease, not just as a thought, but with a real sense of that gratitude. There are times when your mind goes off balance and you start to complain, or when there's some fear and your heart starts to shake. There could be the knowing of that. There is the arising of the shaking of the heart. Or you start to be annoyed at someone. There is the arising of annoyance. As mindfulness gets stronger, you see the arising of conditions. You usually see the cessation of conditions first. One good thing to notice is the cessation of thought. You may think you are thinking all the time, but there are times when you stop thinking. When you stop thinking, that is the death of the ego. When you are out in the garden and you notice the first crocus, your mind stops. That presence is a very valuable moment. We may be caught in our self-views and self-judgments, and then we awaken. For example, if I was in the monastery feeling tired and irritated, and I say to a monk, "You're a turkey," I've said something dismissive to the monk. And then I go back to my hut. I blew it. Wrong speech. 30 years as a monk, I'm no good. That's not being mindful. Maybe I hear the sound of a crow and I wake up. When I awaken to that sound, that is the end of self. That is the space of awareness, of awakeness, of enlightenment. It's very important to notice the end of that thought, because that is the end of self. If you can really notice that, taste that moment of the end of self, you enter the silence of the mind. Most people don't notice that. They think they shouldn't be thinking, or they try to control themselves not to think. But actually, you've already stopped thinking. That is a very valuable moment. When you have been thinking about yourself or the future or time, and then you awaken, you notice the end of time. That is an important moment. The end of time, the end of the future, the end of the past, the end of self, the end of becoming. That's where the deathless lies. Mindfulness is the path to the deathless. It's like a crack or a space. In our monasteries, we say, go for the gap. There is a gap between thoughts, between self, between time. It's always there, because the deathless or the spiritual possibility must be something that is here and now all the time. It's something we are missing. It can't be something that you get in the future, because that's still me getting something in the future. It is always timeless. It is always here and now. Try to notice that moment. So often we are just thinking about ourselves or the future or the past, and then there are gaps. Observe that tendency. We think, oh no, I'm thinking too much again. Don't believe in that, because that creates another self. Say, oh, thank you. What does that feel like? The end of thought, the end of self, the end of time. And then the thought again, what am I going to do? If you can notice the gaps, then you begin to see that that is your real home. That mindfulness is the path to the deathless. When I'm heedless, I'm already dead. It doesn't mean I've got rigor mortis or something. It means the whole sense of ego is birth and death, and a sense of time. That is the problem. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.